Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we take you on the road for stories about cars. In California, we hitch a ride in a solar-powered vehicle that could be a key driver towards a greener future. And later, we get an exclusive tour inside Hot Wheels headquarters to see how the beloved brand keeps up with the times. But we begin with a topic that can cause anxiety and stress for many adult children: convincing their aging parents to stop driving. Nearly 3/4 of adults 75 and older still have their licenses, according to AARP. James Brown shows us how one family successfully navigated the tricky conversation to hand over the keys.
The first time Voncell Gray got behind the wheel of a car, Dwight Eisenhower was president.
Always good to get out. The weather was good.
But despite a clean record over the decades that followed, not one accident, the 85-year-old knew 3 years ago her driving days were over.
I drove to church one morning. I was a nervous wreck.
Because?
I think I ran a red light. And once I got home, I said no more.
What do you miss the most about driving?
Not being able to go when I want to go.
Voncell is one of millions of older Americans grappling with that sudden loss of independence.
She's got a lot more living to do, but like a lot of people, she just didn't have a lot more driving to do.
For Kurt Gray, who has spent his entire career cultivating safe drivers, Voncell's decision was personal. Kurt is Voncell's son.
One of my specialties is a senior driving evaluation where I look at a person's cognitive function, their mobility, their vision, and then we'll go out and see how safe they are behind the wheel of a car.
Gray worked for AAA for 29 years and now owns a traffic safety consulting firm. He helps families navigate the difficult conversation of when a loved one should stop driving.
They don't engage their parents early enough in the conversation.
And
right?
a conversation might be like what?
Conversation is, hey, Mom or Dad, I'm seeing these dents and dings on your car. Maybe we should look at other modes of transportation.
By 2030, an estimated 71 million people in the U.S. will be 65 and older. That's 21% of the population.
Given the aging of the society, we are headed for a major mobility gap.
Joseph Coughlin runs the Age Lab at MIT, where he studies how transportation and technology can improve the lives of older people.
We're not testing older drivers. Instead, we look at how are new technologies behind the wheel either helping or distracting. So you want to go for a ride?
Can I fit?
So I think you can.
To do that, Coughlin and his team have designed this simulator. Sensors track heart rate, eye movements, and stress levels as a driver encounters simulated distractions. Coughlin then provides data to automakers.
We're helping car companies rethink how they design the vehicle.
No amount of technology will be able to guarantee safety for some aging drivers, which is why Voncell Gray knew it was time to put down the keys and rely on hitching rides from family and friends. 3 years out of the driving game, how do you feel now?
I think it was one of the best decisions I've made in my old age.
Now she can enjoy her retirement in the passenger seat.
We turn now from car safety for aging parents to young children. Automakers are working on new detection features after facing accusations that existing technology is not good enough to prevent deaths when kids are accidentally left in the back seat in hot weather. Usher Qureshi speaks with one family who tragically lost a child that way.
On a June morning 3 years ago, as the temperature climbed in Louisiana, Thomas Sestia sat in a car seat in the back of his dad's truck. Tyler Sestia didn't realize he had forgotten his son parked outside his office for 6 hours.
I ran out to the car to see. I couldn't touch him. I didn't know what to do. I was just so devastated.
Police ruled the death an accident. Tyler takes full responsibility. He explains he was experiencing brain fog after being hospitalized with COVID months earlier, and that day he was distracted by an audit at work. Mom Pamela says the family's usual morning routine had changed.
I think before this experience, I was a little judgmental on that and thinking that how do people leave their kids in the car and forget their children?
And how has that perspective changed?
That it can happen to anybody.
To address that, a 2021 law requires automakers install audio and visual rear seat reminder alerts in all new 2025 passenger vehicles. Most have already done this voluntarily.
Your truck in this case had a rear seat reminder.
The way we thought all along how the technology worked in the truck was based on weight.
But his truck, like many, was not sensing the weight of a child in the back seat, only whether he had opened and closed the rear door at the start of his trip.
We had a false sense of security with the rear seat reminder.
6 children, including Thomas, have died in cars equipped with those rear seat reminders, now required by law.
Does the law go far enough?
We've been working with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and they know that that's not really an adequate solution.
We got a demo of more advanced solutions like radar systems that can even sense the breathing of a baby.
If the sensor detects movement within the vehicle, you're going to have the horn go off, and you're also going to get an alert on your smart app. Yeah!
What kind of a difference would that have made for you?
If we'd have had the technology in our vehicle that day, Thomas would still be here.
Coming up, comedian Jay Leno takes us on a tour of one of the largest car collections in the world. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. The Peterson Automobile Museum in Los Angeles celebrated its 30th anniversary in 2024. The institution houses a staggering collection of hundreds of iconic vehicles. It's no surprise it's one of former late-night host and car enthusiast Jay Leno's favorite hangout spots. The comedian gave our Carter Evans a very special peek inside the museum's vault.
Hey, someone in LA let you in.
That's unusual.
It's probably because of the car. And this is not just any car. It belonged to Hollywood legend Steve McQueen.
Racing's important to men who do it well.
Now worth more than $30 million, McQueen's 56 Jag is one of the crown jewels in a collection of more than 400 classics at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. And Chief Mechanic Dana Williamson is one of the only people in the world trusted to drive it.
Jay Leno said once, he goes, how can you not look cool in that car?
Turns out Jay Leno is one of the museum's biggest fans. These cars aren't just sitting here. You got to run them.
Right, yeah, I drive all of mine.
Oh, she's starting to get some heat in her now.
The comedian's lifelong obsession with cars is no secret. How many do you have now?
I got 208 on the road. It's a little stupid. I just never sold anything. I'm what you would have called a hoarder in the old days.
Okay.
But when they go up in value, well, now you're a collector.
And Leno says the Peterson collection outshines them all. He took us down to the vault where nearly 300 cars that aren't on display are meticulously maintained.
Plus, I like the fact that it's like you're in a parking lot from 1925. And look at this.
This 1942 armored Lincoln used by President Franklin D. Roosevelt is an upgraded version of the one the Secret Service borrowed from Al Capone.
And they thought, hey, this would be a good car for the president to use in parades, just cementing that thing we have today with criminals and politicians as one unit.
Why is it important to have a museum like this with all these beautiful machines?
Well, I think all museums are important. Cars now combine art and culture. It's now seen as kinetic artwork. It's just as pretty going down the road as it is parked.
Wrapped in ribbons of steel, the museum itself is a work of art. It was founded in 1994 by Robert E. Peterson, a publishing giant who helped shape American car culture.
He was the editor and owner of Hot Rod magazine, which when I was growing up was about as big as a magazine could get.
Today, the museum contains one of the largest and most prestigious automotive collections in the world.
And the fact it's only 3 miles from my house, it's fantastic.
Leno hangs around here quite a bit these days, swapping old car stories with executive director Terry Cargis.
You know, I used to work at a Ford dealership, and I got fired unjustly when I was 16. And I wrote a letter to Henry Ford, and I sent it to everybody on the board of directors. My boss, Ben Restuccia, said he got a call from Ford. He said, I don't know who you know at Ford, but I want your job back. So I got my job back.
This room houses the Petersons' crown jewels.
This Bugatti's a work of art.
My favorite car in the collection.
It was a wedding gift to the Prince of Persia. And nearby,
that's an iconic car over there.
It's a Ford GT40, and only 7 were built. It won the 24 Hours of Le Mans race, the famous victory retold in Ford versus Ferrari.
A lot of pride for a lot of Americans because it beat Ferrari, it beat the best.
Most of the Petersons exhibits are borrowed or donated cars, like this Rolls-Royce, given to the museum by the widow of legendary film director John Frankenheimer.
It must be a source of pride to have your car in the Peterson.
Yeah, well, you know, I get a lot of cars and people go, would you take my car?
Because they want you to take care of it.
Kept alive for a new generation that looks at carburetors and maybe soon even car ownership in the rearview mirror.
Well, now you have Uber and you have and I see why young people are not particularly interested in cars.
A rideshare will get you where you need to go, but for Leno, like it was for McQueen, the real joy is in the journey itself. Something a trip to the Peterson can teach anyone.
We shift gears from the history of automobiles to their potential future. One company in California is developing a 3-wheeled vehicle that draws the majority of its power not from gas or electricity, but from the sun. CBS News Bay Area's Itay Had takes us on a solar-powered spin.
It's a new twist on traditional travel. No gas or plug required. All this car needs is a tank full of sunshine.
This is the future.
Called the Aptera, this 2-seat, 3-wheeled car looks more like a flying machine, especially when you open its doors. And wait until you see how you do it.
There you go.
Chris Anthony is Aptera's co-CEO. He says this car, priced at about $35,000, is all about efficiency.
There's combustion vehicles, there's electric vehicles, but there's no vehicle that creates its own fuel throughout the day.
The global solar vehicle market is just revving up from $450 million in 2024 to $2.5 billion in 2030. The Aptera is covered in solar panels, which according to the company can generate enough energy to drive up to 40 miles per day. For longer drives, it can be charged like a regular electric car. How fast does this car go?
0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, and the top speed's 110 miles an hour.
We took it for a spin to see how it handles San Francisco's steep terrain.
I have to say, it's doing a pretty decent job.
But while these cars have plenty of fans, Stephen Zoff, a former transportation official and Stanford researcher, says they may not be for everyone.
The trade-offs, very small, very lightweight, limited carrying capacity are going to be deal breakers for a lot of U.S. customers.
And then, of course, there's the weather.
What happens if you live in a place like San Francisco, known for its fog?
Yeah, San Francisco's a great use case for the Aptera. In Southern California, we get about 11,000 miles of free driving a year. In San Francisco, Seattle, New York, you get more like 8,500 miles a year.
Solar cars, steering people towards a brighter future, where the best way to move forward is to look up.
Ahead, a hands-on look into the science and magic behind Hot Wheels. That story is next. We close our show in the high-octane, zero-emissions world of Mattel's Hot Wheels. The palm-sized cruisers have been a playtime staple for many kids since they first hit stores in the late 1960s. Jamie Yucas sees how these beloved toys are designed and tested for maximum fun.
This is where the #1 best-selling toy in the world comes to life. An entire section of Mattel dedicated to Hot Wheels.
Here's a Hot Wheels muscle car, Hot Wheels supercar, Hot Wheels classic race car, race truck, and then this is like a drifting truck.
Designer Brian Benedict takes an idea and turns it into this: a Hot Wheels die-cast car 64 times smaller than a regular car.
If you could have dreamt up a job when you were a kid, was this it?
Well, yeah, literally. Even when I was a kid, I mean, Hot Wheels was my introduction to cars, right? I actually remember writing a letter when I was 8 to Hot Wheels and suggesting like different cars they should do. And
You did?
Yeah.
Today, Benedict works with a team of designers, all with a background in the automotive industry, creating these unique designs.
This is really your fantasy and what you get to have fun with.
Yeah, absolutely. We have partnerships with all the car companies, and we do authentic replications, but with a little bit of a Hot Wheels spin, right? So we don't just do a regular Nissan Patrol, we do like a amped up, overlanding kind of patrol.
Sometimes the color is probably a little different than what you see out
we'll
in the
do
real world.
wild graphics, that sort of thing.
Rooted in car culture and driven by authenticity, Hot Wheels is still able to create that element of fantasy.
And sometimes we go really crazy by doing a donut car. So we brought in donuts because a lot of times the guys will bring in donuts or whatever, and we were sitting eating donuts and like, oh, this would make a cool car.
So sometimes it's just whatever is in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah, so we're inspired by everything, not just car culture, but the world around us. I like what you've done over here.
The idea starts with a sketch. Then the sculptor will create a digital model and print it out. Once approved, it goes to development engineers in Asia.
We have done about close to 30 of what we call the Garage of Legends cars.
Roberto Stanici is the Senior Vice President, Global Head of Vehicles for Mattel.
We always challenge convention. So if you think about a Hot Wheels car, it's not just any car. There's something unexpected about that car. If you think about a Hot Wheels track, there's something unexpected about that track. There's an element of how fast can you go? Can you make that jump? Are you going to be able to do that loop? And that's what really keeps kids of all ages engaged with the brand for so long.
Stanici got this big kid re-engaged with the brand by letting me play with the giant speed loop in the lobby.
I'm launching a truck.
Turns out, other women are getting just as excited about the toys these days.
There used to be an idea that Barbie was for girls and you'd buy that for the girls and Hot Wheels were for boys. Has that changed over the years?
Yes, for sure. We know today from research that about a quarter of the Hot Wheels owners are actually girls. And actually, when you look at adults, that number is even higher of women buying Hot Wheels for themselves as collectors. It's about a third.
I'm surprised it's a third.
Yeah, it has to do with that passion for car culture. Hot Wheels is one of the best ways that people have to just showcase their love for a car.
The original set of Hot Wheels consisted of just 16 cars and was intended for kids.
New Hot Wheels, only from Mattel.
Most of the cars cost just $1, but the highly collectible cars can fetch on the secondary market for several $1,000s, with some valued as much as 6 figures.
Hot Wheels was never about just old, boring play. It's always been about speed. It's always been about performance.
And they perform well. Mattel sells 16.5 Hot Wheel cars every second around the world. The evolution of the brand also now includes other play.
This area back here is Tracks and Playsets area.
Paul Schmidt is a playset designer.
How did you come up with this design?
This is a collaboration, like most of our sets here, of a lot of the different designers back here. And we just wanted to come up with something crazy that we hadn't done before.
I would love if that was my job, come up with something crazy.
That's what we do all day long, is try to think of something that no one else has done before.
Oh, yes, I defeated him!
And while taking down dragons and racing new tracks is really fun, Schmidt's job is actually really difficult.
One of the things that people don't understand, there's a lot of math and engineering that goes behind these, because that little 1/64th scale car has no steering, no suspension, and no driver, and it has to perform on crazy sets like this. Math, engineering, physics, a lot of physics for a set like this to get all this to work.
People don't think about that when they're playing with these.
And it's a very important part of our design process.
The brand continues to race into the future with new innovations and no plans of slowing down.
We're always adding more elements of fun. So before you had 1 crash, now you have 3 crashes, now you have 5, now you have an upside down crash, now the crash is in the air. And those different ways of playing just have kept generations and generations engaged. And that evolves beyond toys as well. with video games and different live events and different ways that people can experience the brand.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.